Disney lore that they've created, and taking a look at what pirates were really like in reality, and whispering some facts about them. So I hope you enjoy, hope you find it informative and relaxing, as is always the aim with these videos. Without further ado, let's get into the facts. So, first fact is piracy endorsed by governments. Historically, piracy took curious turns as certain governments covertly backed pirates as privateers. Sanctioned during wartime, these illegal pirates were authorized to raid enemy vessels, extending naval power through unofficial channels. One notable example of a government endorsing pirates as privateers is the British Crown during the Elizabethan era. Queen Elizabeth I issued letters of marque to individuals, essentially granting them permission to plunder and attack ships belonging to enemy nations, particularly Spain. A woman was China's most prolific pirate. Jing Shi, a fearsome female pirate, commanded an armada of ships in the early 19th century, terrorizing the South China Sea. Her cunning strategies and strict code of conduct led to a reign of piracy that even navies struggled to quell. Jing Shi's fleet numbered in the hundreds, and her dominance prompted the Chinese government and foreign powers to negotiate a truce. Remarkably, she arranged her own terms, securing amnesty for herself and her crew, and retired as a successful business executive, leaving an indelible mark on pirate history and maritime law. Walking the plank wasn't really a thing. Although it is true that pirates were known to be aggressive and downright vicious, it's not really true they would force their prisoners to walk their plank as a form of slow punishment leading to their eventual demise. If they were going to take that route, it's likely pirates would do the deed quickly or simply strand their captives on a remote island, leaving them there to more than likely not come out on the other side of things. So the plank for the most part is a myth. It has simply been made famous through endless pop culture references. I wonder who was the first to do that. Blackbeard was truly menacing. Blackbeard was all too real. He isn't just a mythical figure in pirate lore. He was a real historical figure who terrorized the seas of the Atlantic Ocean. The man whose real name was Edward Deach grew to folk status among his pirate contemporaries for all the wrong reasons. He was easily considered the most vicious and brutal of them all, seizing ships at will with his army of men. He was also known as a legend, and many people are still wondering where his treasure was hidden. To look menacing, he wove hemp into his beard and lit it on fire. This tactic would strike fear into the hearts of his victims. I think I'd really like to do like a whole dedicated history video to Blackbeard. I think it'd be pretty cool. The next fact is pirates didn't just steal treasure. It's a myth that has been perpetuated since pirates have become part of our entertainment world decades ago. After all, what's a pirate without his treasure chest full of gold and silver coins? Well, the truth is, pirates were everything without them, because the majority of their loot was definitely not gold and silver filled chests. They primarily raided other ships and took items that aren't quite as exhilarating. For practical and survival purposes, pirates mainly stole things like food, clothes, tools, and medicines. According to the Queen Anne's Revenge Project, Blackbeard once demanded a chest of medicine in exchange for releasing ships and prisoners he had seized on the port of Charlestown. Pirates actually did wear eye patches. It's actually not just a myth perpetuated by pop culture that pirates wore eye patches for the sake of making them look tougher and more menacing to today's audiences. Pirates of the past actually wore them, although the reasoning behind is a bit hazy. It's thought that there's a bit of science to their reasoning behind the eye patch, and not just a fashion statement meant to intimidate those they went after. Wearing a patch over one eye forced the other eye to adjust accordingly, which helped them see at night. This could have helped while reading or being able to see better below deck where it could get pretty dark. Many pirate ships were actually quite small. People often imagine pirate ships as large, hulking and intimidating specimens, barging their way through the waters, en route to take the goods of the next ship in sight. But seeing images of real-life pirate ships prove these descriptions aren't entirely accurate, and meant to paint them in a certain light. In reality, most pirate ships were in fact small, built for speed and agility, with enough space for weapons and their crew of men. This was a well thought out method, as they simply relied more on being nimble enough to chase larger, slower moving merchant ships, without being chased down themselves after getting away with the loot. There's a name for that pirate flag. We've all seen the infamous flag flown by pirates in movies and books our whole lives. The white skull and crossbones is synonymous with the world of pirates, and with good reason. Those flags were real and were actually flown centuries ago by the thieves of the sea. The flag was called a Jolly Roger, and the origin of its name is still a bit of a mystery. Similar to country flags, as they also have a meaning, the Jolly Roger's flag meaning involves colours, which represent the idea that no mercy should be taken. The name itself stems from a French saying that translates into the name it's known as today. Blackbeard didn't use the Jolly Roger. As popular as the flag was, the most famous and feared pirate of all time was one of the few who opted not to use the Jolly Roger. According to the Queen Anne's Revenge Project, the flag featured skeleton adorned with horns, carrying an hourglass and a spear pointing toward a red heart. This guy was definitely all about intimidation and fear, and the flag seen in the distance as he approached incited plenty of it. Pirates had their set of values. Although it may seem hard to grasp, considering pirates were by definition thieves of the ocean who went around robbing ships, they actually had their set of values which they abided by stringently. Although their lives were based on an unethical means of making a living, they still had their own rules that they implemented and stuck to. There were consequences for members of the crew who chose to not follow the set code. Rules included things like no fighting among one another while on board, divvying up chores evenly, food rationing and more. Keeping the ship deck organised and clean was actually a priority for the crew. Julius Caesar was once a victim to pirates. Incredibly, the most iconic Roman of all time, Julius Caesar, was once a victim to pirates from Sicily. He was held captive for a ransom worth over $250,000 today. Caesar, being the leader that he was, gained their respect, but vowed to return to make them pay upon his release. He made good on that word after he was free, returning to take the lives of all his captors, even taking back the ransom he was forced to pay. and Qing Shi were the most powerful pirate couple. Usually pirates had their runs as solo acts like Blackbeard and others that were as powerful. At one point in history there was a couple so powerful in China that their run as pirates is nearly unmatched in terms of success and sheer dominance. Zheng Li and his wife Qing Shi ran a group of raiding pirates that grew so large and controlled so much of the ocean's water that according to Fascinate.com and Factinate.com, their crews were able to go toe-to-toe with the Qing Dynasty Navy fleet. Next fact is the drinking stereotype was true. Most times people have seen pirates on the big screen on film. They tend to see them with a drink in their hand, acting pretty over the top and aggressive. Turns out the whole drinking stereotype is pretty spot on. Pirates drank whatever was available, but their preferred drink was a concoction they invented called grog. Grog was basically sugar, lemon juice, water and rum all mixed together. The drink still lives on today in just about most bars, and most of them having a twist on the whole pirate theme. The next fact is they took prisoners for a reason. Pirates were actually pretty strategic when it came to how they went about looting and raiding other ships. They were smart enough to realise that it was best to incite fear by taking prisoners and keeping them captive, before finally letting them loose after taking all their belongings. If they made good on their threats to take lives, pirates worried that those who were captured would know they were in a fight for their life and would fight back till the end rather than surrender. Actually a pretty smart way of thinking. Splitting the loot was organised. Although pirates are always depicted as angry, aggressive and uncivilised men, their structure was very sound, and this was especially true when it came to the loot they pillaged from their victims. After they successfully took what they could from other ships, they had a set way of splitting up the treasures. Most crews had an organised methodology of splitting the value of the loot equally among the members of the crew, with the captain taking just a slightly higher share. The wages actually turned out to be significant, making pirates some of the wealthier members of society, albeit criminals. Blackbeard's massive ship was discovered. For all his mythical status and the legendary tales that followed Blackbeard, the world finally got a glimpse into the real man and his way of life. Over 2 decades ago, in 1996, the Queen Anne's Revenge, Blackbeard's famous ship, was discovered. It was considered one of the most remarkable oceanic discoveries of all time, and one of the most important into the world of piracy. Found off the coast of the eastern United States near the Carolinas, the ship yielded cannons and hundreds of thousands of artifacts that gave experts a better understanding of pirate life. Pirates are still very real today. Pirates aren't just some ancient history of our past rooted in mythological characters. They were very real back then, and although it might be hard to believe, they are still very real today as well. They simply don't look the same as they used to. Modern day pirates come from all over the world, scouring the waters of the Indian Ocean, the Red Sea and the coasts of Africa. Somalia is considered the most notorious producers of today's pirates, with a huge percentage of them coming from this country. Although it is true pirates come from all over the world, Somali pirates are the most dangerous and sophisticated. Yeah, whenever I hear the term pirate, I literally just think of the movie Captain Phillips. Were they from Somalia? I feel like they might have been. I also, this is a side note, sort of side fact, but the actor that played the lead pirate in the movie Captain Phillips, I think he won awards and stuff, but then he literally just went back home and ran a mobile phone shop with his brother. Right, hijackings take place way more than you realise. Lovely. Although they don't get very much coverage by today's media, hijackings by modern day pirates take place way more often than any of us realise, making this a very big issue in our ocean waters today. The coverage isn't all that loud simply because most victims tend to be ships from countries like Singapore or Indonesia. But the reality is this is a huge maritime issue. The International Maritime Bureau's Piracy Reporting Centre constantly monitors piracy, robbery and armed incidents around the world. Ransoms are still very much demanded. Kidnappings are not always a part of pirate hijackings, but they are an unfortunate reality that certainly takes place today. When kidnappings are involved today, ransoms that are demanded are significant, with many of the ships attacked today coming from poorer countries. Law enforcement is simply not equipped to combat pirates, and ransoms are often paid for safe releases. Pirates have upgraded their firepower. Although pirates look entirely different today than they did centuries ago, their ultimate goal has remained the same: track neighbouring ships, force their way onto the ship, and then take the cargo and goods at all costs after boarding. The way to do this is to make sure they have the firepower necessary to overtake other ships, and this means pirates have upgraded their weaponry. It's not unusual to see these small boats carrying mortars and rocket launchers, along with highly specialised geographical location technology. The consequences aren't that bad. Amazingly, being caught for piracy activity isn't nearly as bad as one would imagine, even though their activities have major repercussions in our oceans. The consequences aren't daunting. This is mainly due to the countries that capture pirates. A lot of them are underdeveloped and don't have laws in place against piracy because of the complexities of jurisdiction and maritime legalities. This often means they get away with a slap on the wrist, as long as there were no kidnappings or hurt victims involved. And there are actually some good pirates too. The word pirate is associated with some pretty bad guys with good reason. Pirates steal and pillage from neighbouring ships, but unbeknownst to some, there are actually good pirates who have their sights set on doing some good in the world. Known as environmental pirates, their goal is to disrupt the actions of fishing ships and boats that illegally target whales, dolphins, sea turtles and other endangered ocean wildlife. The most famous group are the Sea Shepherds, who are notorious for putting an end to many of these ships' tactics by slamming into other boats, sinking them, or throwing things on board to disrupt their ability to operate. And the final fact of this video, the most infamous hijacking of all time. Famously depicted in a best-selling book and a hit blockbuster film, Captain Phillips starring Tom Hanks, there we go as I mentioned. The hijacking of the Maersk, Alabama is the most well-known in modern-day pirate history. A group of Somali pirates overtook the US cargo ship in 2009 in the middle of the Indian Ocean and held the crew captive for 4 days, marking this the first successful seizure of a US ship. The US Navy immediately got involved and successfully took back the Maersk, Alabama, freeing the crew members of the ship while capturing all pirates. especially I feel like Xingji, I think that was the name, or Jingji, would definitely make for a good movie, but Pirates of the Caribbean kind of has a bit of a monopoly, I guess. But yeah, that is going to do it for this evening's video. I really hope you did enjoy it. If you are able to, if you could please give this video a like